this microphone. And Erica has some PowerPoints she wanted to share a little bit with, but let me introduce you first. I first met Dr. Harmesh Kumar when I went on the executive committee of the Interfaith Council in 2004, which was like months after starting here 17 years ago. And he was already a member of the executive committee and already leading Baisakhi festivals and all sorts of diversity festivals and other work in Concord. And you might have even seen him running for office in Concord, but he's a psychotherapist and does great work with folks in the chaplaincy in, what is it, Fairfield?
In Vacaville.
Vacaville. And Dr. Erica Bains teaches in the business school at St. Mary's. She's taking a little break right now. And she does a lot of medical missions with Sikhs and is president of the Interfaith Council right now. And we're so grateful for both of you to be here, and we thank you. And so there you go.
Thank you all for having us here today. We will start talking about Sikhism. We don't have a lot of time, so Dr. Kumar and I thought we will do just the basics, the core belief systems. And also we thought we'll talk about just how Sikhism came about. So the two things we'll talk about. A little
closer.
So first we'll talk about just how Sikhism came about and the timeline as to what was happening in the region where Sikhism evolved from, and the journeys of 3 of the 10 Sikh gurus. There were 10 Sikh gurus. The first was Guru Nanak, who basically established all the basic knowledge.
Whose picture is on the front of your bulletin, I think.
So we'll just first talk about what is the meaning of Sikhism. Sikh means the learned one. So Guru Nanak was born in the 15th century. And one of the things he noticed during his journeys, during his lifetime and his journeys around where he was raised, he was basically born in Pakistan, current day Pakistan, and also died in Pakistan. But as a little kid and as he was growing up, he experienced a lot of differences in people. Inequality was something that he basically experienced so much of, and he understood very little about. He almost was confused as to why people actually treated others because of their gender, because of their religion, because of their social status and standings. He was so confused as to why people treated others unequally. For Guru Nanak understood one thing, that in each creation, there is the light of the very same divine spirit, the God. So how, he thought, how interesting, women are treated so much more inferior than men. People with less money are treated as lower than people with more money. And there were these caste systems. He thought, how is it possible that if we are children of the same father, that there be these lower people, higher people? How is it possible? So he, after many years, 28,000 kilometers of journey throughout, the entire Asia, including all the way up to Jerusalem, basically went on various different journeys and came up with this one conclusion, that humans should be Sikhs, learned. What he found in his 24 years of traveling throughout Asia, all the way to Bethlehem, understanding all the different religions, he realized that one thing was important in wakening up our human souls, our minds, and that was knowledge. Sikh. Knowledge, it's a very big word. And for someone with a PhD in decision sciences, with a very focus on neural networking, it's actually 10 very large books. We won't go there. But in Guru Nanak's way of the learned one, he thought, you see, learning, knowledge is a journey. One's entire life is a journey of knowledge learning. Not enough to just basically know terms like peace. Not enough to know terms like no hatred. Not enough to say we are brothers, but a journey that basically explores something to a very deeper level. You see, there's an example that Guru Nanak gives. And he says, you see, if you and I wanted to understand fire, something that can be pretty dangerous, one just getting an explanation of what fire looks like may not be prepared to deal with that fire. For example, as a little child, you see fire, it looks very beautiful, very colorful. Just to say that is fire, it is this bright red color, and the child may not understand that and may go right at it. And without truly understanding everything about the fire, the dangers of it, the beauty of it, what it does, one may not truly be able to deal with fire. So to understand anything, whether it is brotherhood, whether it is inequality, whether it's peace, we really have to become learned and knowledge to the point where it has meaning, whether we are not approaching it with some information, but truly with the right information. So that is what Sikhism is all about. It's about becoming learned. And luckily for Sikhs, there are very simple principles that has been, given to us as parts of what we need to become learned about and how to approach life. So we are going to talk about those things today. So there was just a brief understanding of what Sikh means. Become learned about everything, whatever it is, beyond just a term, beyond just an understanding of the basics of it, but really getting yourself into it, whatever it is that you pursue. So we'll talk about, we'll go back to slides. So during Guru Arjan Dev Ji's, Guru Nanak Dev Ji's time, there was huge, inequalities. There was, women were actually burned with their husbands because they were thought of as properties of men. So when the husbands died, because people feared that that woman's relationship with other men may insult the families, or women may get taken advantage of. There were many reasons, but women, once their husbands died, would have to die or couldn't marry again, or would have to go back to their parents' house. Of course, people of lower status. So these were the inequalities that Guru Nanak Dev Ji was very, very, against. And also this was a time in India in the 15th century when there was this big fight between two main religious groups at that time. The Hindus thought they were much better, and the Muslims thought they were much better. And there were other religions. Buddhism was very big there. So there was this huge, disagreements going between the different religious groups. And Guru Nanak once set up invited people from various different villages to come together, and he said that, and I'll ask Dr. Kumar to give the explanation of this. Koi bole Ram, koi khudai, koi seve gusai, koi alai. So, Dr. Kumar, you want to give the explanation of that?
Yeah, I think one thing I will add before I explain that. What Guru Nanak said at the time of when there were so much gender inequalities and women was treated very, very differently. And he said, So kyo manda akhiye jis jamme rajan. How can you say that woman is bad who has given birth to all the kings of the world? So when people were talking to him, he will come up with these very wisdom-filled quotes, so that the person, even when the Babur, at that time, he was the king, he was the invader from Afghanistan, from next to Afghanistan, Uzbekistan. He came to conquer India because people were very nice, very calm, very peaceful. So they said, oh, they are the people. And then there were divisions of caste and other things at that time. People were treated by their own countrymen very lower, and they were treated so badly. So because of this infighting, the invader thought that India is a good place to take all their possessions, and India was very rich at that time, materialistically and also spiritually. But in many ways, that spiritual bankruptcy in the terms of caste system was really creeping in and destroying the inner strength. So other people were able to take advantage of it. So Babur, when he put he killed so many people. And then Guru Nanak was the one who told him at his face, what you're doing is not the right thing. And then this Babur put him in prison with other inmates. There were thousands and thousands of people in prison at that time. And Guru Nanak was also part of that prison he put them. And then somebody told him that when prisoners were given a kind of very hard task to grind the wheat by hand, and I don't know if it is a miracle or something, when Guru Nanak was given that assignment, and the stone with which it grind the wheat, they started moving itself. And somebody went to the king, he said, this guy is not doing anything, but the wheat is being grinded on its own. He must be somebody you don't know, or maybe somebody we need to get to know better. So the king went to him and he said, I heard that you are not doing anything, but you're, and then he started the dialogue with the king. And he told the king at his face that you don't have any pity on humanity, that you're killing so many mothers, so many women, so many men, so many fathers, so many brothers, so many sisters. You don't have any compassion in your sight. That was the time when he released hundreds and hundreds of prisoners. So he didn't get afraid of the king. So to give you the explanation of this, he said, we all have different languages. Some of us speak Hindi, some of us speak English, some of us speak Punjabi, some of us speak Spanish, some of us speak other different languages of the world. But God is only one. You call the God with different names. Somebody called it Khuda in Islam. Somebody in Christianity call it God. Somebody in Hinduism call it Ishwar. or Paramatma. Paramatma means the supreme soul. Somebody called it Gosaiya. Gosaiya means another name for God. In India, we have 300 names for God. Only 300. And then every name has different connotations and different context when people are talking about God. So that's what is the line, koi kahe Gosaiya, koi kahe Khudai. It's somebody called it Khuda, somebody called it Allah, somebody called it Ishwar, somebody called it God, somebody called it Gosaiya. So there are different names, but God is only one. That's what it means. Go ahead, Dr.
Thank you so much. So basically, that was the 15th century, and all of a sudden, the Guru Nanak's, be it talent or be it his spiritual, presence, or be it something unique about him, because Sikhs don't believe that anyone who is a man can be God, and we never have treated Guru Nanak as God or even a son of God, because the Guru has told the Sikhs that the real teacher, Guru means teacher, by the way, the real teacher is God himself. So since we are also children of the same God as he was, that he had no special talents, yeah, but he was much more connected to God, and that's why he was able to do things that people thought was unique. But anyways, that's how Guru Nanak was able to basically, sometimes, he would be found sitting somewhere and cobras right over his head, trying to give him shade when there was sun. So all of these things, got people to think that he was God or he was the son of God, but he tried to calm people down. But at the same time, he was able to get so many people in so many places, from all the way India to China, all the way to Bethlehem, to accept the fact that there was one God, one creator for all creations. During his travels, during those 24 years and 28,000 kilometers, he was able to collect works of all the religion, Christians, Buddhism, Sufism, Islam, Hinduism. He was able to collect all that work. 100 years later, a fifth Guru, Guru Arjan, was able to get people to come together and say, yes, you know what? That is the right way of living. All of us with different languages just know God by just a different name. Isai means Jesus, and then Allah is, who we talk, Muslims, how they call. Khuda is how Sufis call, the same Allah, and we call the same Allah, Guru, Waheguru, and Hindus call Ram, and Christians. So everybody accepted that. Finally, 100 years later, the fifth Guru had put together people of all different backgrounds to accept this and started living peacefully. And then a Muslim emperor at that time became very concerned about this. And basically he said in his very journal, Emperor Jahangir's biography, there's this Hindu named Arjan. He lived in Goindwal. Simple-minded Hindus and ignorant and foolish Muslims have been persuaded to adopt his way. This business has been, going on for several generations. For a long time, I've been thinking of a way to put an end to it, or basically bring him in the folds of Islam. And then he basically summoned Guru Arjan to come together and to come to the emperor and accept, stop this nonsense of getting people together, and said that, you need to actually, actually what you're preaching is Islam. So why not just, become Muslim, and then all of us can be one religion. So the Guruji did not go for it, and he basically, and I will let Dr. Kumar to talk about what he said, but anyways, he basically decided, no, it is about time to do quite the opposite. It's about time to put all the materials from all of these different religious groups, material from every single saint, every single, Bible, all the things that Guru Nanak collected 100 years ago into one book. And that is what the Sikhs have as our holy scripture, called the Guru Granth Sahib Ji.
And
So
some of it's written by Muslims and some of it's written
Muslims,
by
Hindus, Sufis, everyone. So this is works that Guru Nanak basically compiled during his 28,000 kilometer journey all around Asia. So he just decided to defy the emperor and decided to put all the work in one book and said, there we have it. That is a actually central message. Why should we all just drop our feelings and why not we all come together? Because guess what? Knowledge should be broad. Why should there be just your view and your view? And what if we just put all our views together? How we feel, why not teaching of yours and mine and everybody in one book so that we have a common book? If you want a common religion, let's just do it like that. So the Guruji decided to publish this Holy Scripture. Till this day, that Holy Scripture is what the Sikhs use. Everyone's teaching in one book.
And you have a really interesting way of theologizing about that book because you consider it a living word.
It's called the living teacher. It's called the living teacher. We will go to, when we get to the next slide, we'll talk about who made it the living teacher. But Guru Arjan was just in defiance, saying, no, let's just do it like that. And he basically said, these are, different saints and, priests and, scholars and philosophers. Why should we just, ignore their values? Why should we just include your values? Why not just have a book? If you're going to have broad knowledge, might as well have all the basics of all the different knowledge base. So he basically said, one more slide, so then I go back one time. Na koi beri, na koi, what was the? Begana, sorry about that, I left that 1 hour. Jab te saath sangat mohe pai. It's basically talking about humanity as one true religion, but it's something that Guru Nanak had taught, but how much you want to do that?
Yeah, what he said, but since I have come to know that there is nobody is my enemy and nobody is my foe, once I started to realize that, then I see oneness in everybody. Nobody is different than me. And this was the fifth Guru who put all the writings, even of the untouchables at that time, in this holy Granth. And that's why untouchables, because they were majority, even now in India, they all became Sikhs. And at that time when Guru Arjan Dev was talking with this king, the Jahangir, the Muslim ruler at that time, and when Guru was not able to kind of bow to his kingdom, this Jahangir's wording to convert himself to Islam and bring all his devotees to Islam, he became very angry with the Guru.
He basically asked the Guru to he told the Guru that he'll be tortured. And the Guru, as you can see, dressed up very nicely,
yeah,
and kindly and with a very nice prayer, just got in and sat down on that hot plate. And the king was so upset that he decided not only is he sitting there, but let's start pouring hot sand over him. For 3 days, they poured hot sand on him, and then they made him walk, in a parade. He was paraded with his burned body, and the Guru was told by the king's guards were told to dip him in water and take him out slowly. And the Guru actually was put with 6-7 big soldiers into the water and never to be seen again. Now, one more thing. No, the Sikhs do not believe that Guru Arjan was God or anything, except that he was God's children, just like me and just like you. So we'll go to Guru Gobind Singh Ji. A whole century later, the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, now with Sikhism as not a religion per se, but at least now people are believing, since they've seen Guru Nanak's work, and good amount of people had started believing equality, can only be achieved. We can all come together as one big family, and
Can I add one thing before you continue? What happened during Guru Arjan Dev when he was tortured and he was kind of boiled even in the boiling water, and that torture was like, now we have live televisions. At that time, they used to bring people from all over the area, all these kings, and they want to demonstrate to them that if you don't convert to Islam, your fate will be the same as happened to this guru. But it went against the king, because most of the people, those who mind their own business and they are busy with their own work and in making their own living, when they saw this torture of the guru, they call, so this was one way of, like Jesus did get crucified, to awaken all of us against injustice, against what happened during that context of time. So majority of the people, their conscience got woken up with this torture. And gradually started spreading in the areas a little bit further and further and further. And it took 100 years, where Dr. Bains is going to talk now.
For a whole 100 years now, all the way from Afghanistan to Persia, Turk, Sikhism was spreading quite, I mean, it was not a religion, by the way, it's just a way of living, everybody living together, everybody getting to know each other, understand each other's viewpoints, kind of accept difference as not a bad thing, but a good thing. Diversity as the way of life was how it was for 100 years. Unfortunately, there was a very cruel, emperor, the very grandson of Jahangir, Aurangzeb, and he decided everything had to be ended. It's just going too far, and if it's already reached Afghanistan and now it's reaching up in Iraq, it's soon going to take away, the territories that was very important to the Muslims. And as had a Persian grandmother, and with Persia wanting to not, get any of this Sikhism anywhere close to them, he decided to basically just end this religion forever, and decided that it was time to just get the entire India to be just torture them and do whatever is necessary, put their children, break them up alive, burn them alive in front of their grandparents, just get rid of this nonsense of Sikhism, and you need unity and harmony and this diversity nonsense. Just get rid of this and then convert everybody to Islam and be done with this. Then the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, decided, oh, nope, that's not going to happen. None of the Gurus had ever fought, but the 10th Guru said, it's about time that the human, when sometimes gets out of control, the human needs to, the saint, the humans always must be a saint in the way they approach each other, in the way they are, with their families and all God's children. They should be saints, but they need to be soldiers when it comes to protecting others as well. So this is the time when Guru Gobind Singh Ji came up and decided that we need to create what's called the Khalsa. The Khalsa is a saint soldier. In other words, it's not enough just to be the learned one. It's not enough to learn about everybody's religion, race, feelings, and come together, but it's time to go ahead and start standing up for your right. Guruji is known to have fought one man against 100,000, it is said. And the Guruji was not a God, nor a son of God, nor he was any disciple, because he said he was just a man. God was listening to him. He had personal conversations with God, but so can I, and so can you. He said, all of us are God's children. We actually are his light. His light is in me and you. You and I too are God's sons and daughters. So, but he basically said, I am no God. I'm not even a teacher. The real teacher is God himself. Vaheguru is what we call the real teacher. God is our real teacher. If you want knowledge, you want to be a Sikh, God is where you go to get your knowledge. But he basically said to all Sikhs that it's about time that we came together. And it's about time that we show everybody in the world that this is a faith worth having, Sikhism. And he basically published, Guru Arjan had already published it. He basically told people of all backgrounds, who out of you want to give your life for preserving God's message of unity and harmony? 5 different persons of different religious groups from different regions decided to step forward, give up their religions, and to form Sikhism. And that's how Sikhism started. People of 5 different backgrounds, different religions, they all dropped everything and decided to start Sikhism. This is where the Sikhism began. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji is known for saying many things. One of the things he has said is that "Jo to prem khelan ka chao, sir dal tari, gali more aao." If you truly want to accept God and God's creation, if you really want to love, then give up everything for God's creation. It's not enough to say, I love God. Give it up, give everything. To love someone, you need to really, give up you to be able to love somebody. And that was his message, the ultimate reality, union with God, the ultimate reality is only possible through true love. That is accepting his will. His will is in you and you and you, whoever you are, that is his will. I need to love you for who you are. So that was his message. And also one big message he left for all humankind before he left, he said, Manis ki jaat sabe ek ke pehchanabo. All mankind belong to the same human race. That was Guru's last message. And then he let 5 people of different backgrounds come together and he became their servant. He said, you see, this is God's will. If we are to be somebody, we need to become your servant. The Guru actually became the servant of the 5 people that were willing to give up everything to come together for unity and harmony and accepting all men of all races as one human race.
So some of the people that we see wearing turbans, many people in our culture mistake them for being Muslims. And there's a certain amount of Islamophobia that goes on in our culture that targets Sikhs because they don't know the difference between Sikhs and Muslims. But this is where the Khalsa comes from, the people that wear the knives.
Yeah. Khalsa basically is, the Guru also said that a Khalsa, how do we recognize a Khalsa in each one of us? He actually gave us some uniforms. One of them was meant to wear the turban. And a lot of us wear this little bangle because you see, we don't have jewelry as a requirement. We actually all have. Where's yours, Dr. Kumar? So a Khalsa has certain way. See, the thing is, how would you know that you are a Khalsa? How do I know there's a sane soldier that if I need help, I can look you up or just say, hey, by the way, or who would you turn to? Well, these are some of the signs. You see that turban. You see this on the right hand. I've never taken this off. 12 years old, my grandfather brought me this from Golden Temple. It's never came out, has never come off. But the thing is, there were a couple of things, articles of faith that Guru left with us. This is how we recognize each other. This is how we know where to turn to. So, recently when there was the house arrest and Kashmir war was going on, when India had stopped, people from moving around in Kashmir. Every Muslim girl that was in any university anywhere in India immediately went to a Sikh temple because this is how they know where they can go to get help. So Khalsa is one that is not a saint, but a soldier. He will protect you, but he is also, he or she, me, anyone, is a soldier too. So they will protect you, but they will also be good to you. Also, when COVID happened, if you are not aware, in India, people were stuck, they couldn't move. They all went to Sikh temples because they know there they will find that saint soldier. They will get food, they will get housing. No one's gonna get in the way of them protecting you against anyone. So that's the soldier.
Can you share with us, I know that food is a huge thing for Sikhs. I know that when I went to the Parliament of the World's Religions, the Sikhs from the United Kingdom were feeding 10,000 people a day.
Yep.
Lunch and dinner. And breakfast, and it's always, whenever I go to the Guru Ravidass Sikh Temple here on Crestview, you always have food and sometimes sweets, and sometimes way too many sweets. But food and hospitality is such a huge deal for Sikhs. Where does that come from?
You see, Sikhism, basically it was started in an agricultural land, Punjab, which is like Central Valley here. And now you see thousands and thousands of farmers protesting in New Delhi. They are sitting in the rain, in the wind, in the cold for last 7-8 months, protesting against India, because India government right now, this BJP government, they are trying to, what they are trying to do is they are trying to sell the land to the corporations. They enacted these 3 laws in India, and 3 laws says that farmers, they put in a beautiful language, packaging is beautiful, language is beautiful, but their after effects of those laws are going to be dispossession of family farmers, because all these corporations, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, all they have bound together to buy land of Punjabis, farmers. And this bill which they have enacted, this will give them the rights. If suppose the land is $1,000 per acre, the corporation buy it for $100,000 per acre. And after they buy it, like what happened here in the Central Valley, they will tell you what you need to grow. They won't care what the community needs locally. They will tell you what fruit to grow. They'll tell you what a crop to grow. And that's what is going to happen. So farmers are protesting because it's agricultural land. And
these are the largest protests ever
So
recorded.
it comes down to the very first, next slide, we'll talk about 3 principles of Sikhism. And the first one is the honest, dignified way of making a living. But we'll go back to why we have the langar and the food. So basically, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, when he basically decided that all religious writings can come together in one place, he also decided to build what's called the Harmandir Sahib, a place, common place for people to come worship. And so he basically built 4 or 5 different doors. People come from any which way. If you want to avoid people of other colors and of other races and other genders, don't have to deal with them. But once you come in, you all have to sit together and eat. Because guess what? When you all come together, sit and eat, well, guess what happens when you're all enjoying some food? You will have some conversations with the person, and you will find something very, very, very common, which is we all enjoy food. And you know what, when we're eating, we basically have a little bit time to talk. And so this is how we can start conversing and start realizing that people are not so different when you really think about it. And so that was the purpose of the langar. And that's why the gurdwaras always have langar. I used to think that they used to have the langar so that we as kids in Sunday school didn't get late and didn't have excuse for not coming, because the priest used to say, what do you mean you're late? There is breakfast here every day for you, and you said you had to eat your cereal. What are you talking about? We always make you your lunch, your breakfast, your dinner too.
No excuses. We might have to do that around here.
So anyways, that's just speaking in the language of my priest in those days. But I used to think that they just had that breakfast and lunch, so they did not want us to be late for that Sunday school. But then as I grew older, I realized the purpose was was to get people of all backgrounds together in one place, sitting and talking and enjoying a meal together.
Let me add one other thing. when he started Guru Arjan Dev, the fifth Guru, when he started that Harmandir Sahib, we call it the Golden Temple or the Harmandir Sahib, he put 4 doors. India was divided into 4 varnas, sections, meaning 4 castes. The upper was Brahmins. They had control over all the education system, all the religious activities. They were the only one allowed to worship in the temples. Nobody else. And the Lord, then were Kshatriyas. They were the fighters, administrative kings. So they will rule the masses. And next to them were the business class, Vaishyas. And next to them were the untouchable laborers, those who work on daily basis or in different professions like cobblers, weavers, carpenters. They were all called untouchables. So Guru Arjan Dev, he kept 4 doors of the Harmandir Sahib so that all the varnas, all the section of the community, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, untouchables could come to the temple without any reservation.
Different entrances for different people. So essentially that was the reason. So we'll quickly go.
But the Longar put all of these people of different castes around the same table to eat.
Indeed. And
Once
Guru
you-
Nanak actually started that pratha when he was traveling. He
Wow.
found some of these sadhus, we call them. Sadhus are the people, those who have really controlled their desires to see oneness in everybody. Sometimes they don't eat because they don't have much financial resources. They just keep walking and traveling from place to place to preach, to educate the masses. So they don't worry about their, and Guru Nanak found some of these sadhus on the way. His father gave him, he was from a business community, Guru Nanak. His father gave him $20 to go and do some business at that time. And rather than doing business, he found these sadhus, those who were looking for food. So he gave $20 to his friend to buy some food for them, and he started serving the food with, and his father became so angry. You know, I gave you money to do business and you are wasting money. And then he started that. He said, no, I'm not wasting money. This is the way we need to treat humanity. And that's here it started.
That
and then-
sounds a little bit like a parable of Jesus. And I know that we have we've only gotten through half of the slides. So I'm wondering if we need to invite them back another time. Would that be beneficial for us? And maybe what we need to do between now and a future date when you come, maybe there's a time when we can go to the Guru Ravidass Sikh Temple
Sure.
or the Bay Point Sikh Temple, because there's a new one in Bay Point, right? And we can go any Sunday.
Any Sunday.
Any Sunday, we would be invited to go. We would show up, and what would people do when you go to a Sikh temple?
So Sikh
Yeah.
temple has no real order, like we don't do what you did here today. Sikhs
There's no
go,
bulletin.
Sikhs go first and they get a nice tea and then they sit down and they talk and they chatter. And if they want, they can go do the prayers, listen to some prayers, and then they come out and then eat again. It's all about socializing. I mean, the way to know somebody is to really get to know you. And the only way to get to know you is if I am sitting and talking and eating with you, right? So the Sikhs don't really have that basic formal, structure. Most of the time you will see elderly people sitting in the worship room listening. That's because they have dropped their grandkids in the Sunday school. And, after they fed their grandkids, they dropped them off, they had their tea, and now they're sitting for the grandkids to be released. So that's what will happen. And you can always go and do your quick prayer and, listen to a little bit of lecture. And if you're hungry, you go back and eat again. That's how it
And
is
so the
done.
building that's over here on Crestview, if you go west on Crestview and you make a right north on Crestview, if you go west on Leland, you make a right on Crestview, which is the next light beyond Railroad. You make a right on that and the road curves a little and there's an old chapel that looks like our chapel because I think it was the chapel for the POWs. That part of town was where the prisoners, the German and Italian prisoners of war were kept. And next to that is the old gym of Pittsburg City Gym, and that's now their main temple. And so you can park in their big lot. If you go in by their little, what looks like the chapel, to the left is where the Longar is. So if you wanted to meet people or grab something to eat, some tea or sweets.
Tea
or,
and sweet and snacks. So you know
all
what, if you're just
vegetarian.
hungry after you get done over here, just basically go there and have a nice lunch. And you know, if you want, you can, the thing is, there's no rule for where you to sit, but you see lines, people will sit on the table sometimes and some people will sit in the bottom. It's beautiful to sit in the bottom because you'll be sitting next to a grandpa and a little, you know, grandkid or grandma. So just sit anywhere so that you can kind of rub elbows and talk to each other or kind of hear what they're saying. That's the beauty of a langar, is to all come together, eat together and get to know each other.
So we're going to invite everyone to visit a Sikh temple over the next 3 months. And we're going to invite you back in 3 to 4 months.
Sure.
So we can go deeper and understand a little bit more about Sikhism, because it's.
Next time we'll talk about the principles of Sikhism and the virtues of the Sikhism, which are known as the armors that we must wear to be a saint. We must wear certain armors, and it is love and compassion and forgiveness and humility and obviously love. What did I miss? Oh yeah, always seeking the truth. But we'll talk about the basic message. But going back to that one question about the farmers' protest, there are 3 principles of a Sikh's living, and one of them is called the Kirt Karo, which means you earn your bread with your own hard-earned labor. And so Sikhs are mostly farmers. And the reason why they are actually fighting for their 2-3 acres and not for it to go to someone else, because when a person does not have the ability to earn their own money and depend on others, guess what? How can you control your ability to earn that living by your hard labor? So that's why the biggest protest in this world.
It's spiritual in nature. And then the other thing to add to that is with the practice of Sikhism, because I'm into mental health. I have been psychologist for the last 37 plus years. I ran my own practice. I started my own non-profit mental health agency in 93 in Concord. Now we're all over the place. I'm not part of that anymore. I served 13 years, brought it up from ground. It is sometimes hard when you get attached to your babies to let them go. I went to third phase in 2004. So mental health and Gurwani are so much related with each other. That's why I worked 2.5 years because I was running my own nursing home and assisted living facility. I still have left 70 beds, which I'm selling because I want to do this kind of thing more. And I have only one daughter. She has flown away. She's gone with her boyfriend now. And me and my wife are left alone with empty nest. So I need to fill that empty nest with this kind of work I'm doing. So when I worked 2.5 years in Stockton prison, and many people are so afraid working within the prison system. And every day we have assault by inmates on the staff. And even the officers are committing suicide on a daily basis in these facilities. When I started working and I started applying these principles, because you just need to apply them on human beings, and human beings are the same no matter where you come from. The symptoms of mental illness are the same no matter where you come from, whether you're Indian, whether you're American, whether you're Iranian, whether you're Afghani, whether you're Spanish. If you have schizophrenia, the symptoms are the same. What we do with those symptoms is different in different cultures. I was traveling Barcelona at that time when we went for Parliament of Religion. I think I went with some other friends from Interfaith Council. So there were some catatonic patients. They are sitting on the main road in Barcelona, and people are putting money in their wall when they're walking by. And they're just sitting like statue, like a catatonic patient. But if somebody sits like this in our park here in United States, police will come and take them to the prison. So we have made prisons at the mental asylum. Majority of the people I see in the prison, more than 95% are suffering from mental illness. We're spending so much money. And whenever I go to these inmates, when I work with them, and I relate to them as human to human, I don't see their crime. I see them as a human. And their aura changes. When other psychologists knock at their door to come and meet with them, they don't want to see them. And they ask the officer when Dr. Kumar is going to come next week. We want to meet with him. And when you have that kind of reception, and you see the changes in their lives, and that's what the message of Christ is, that's what the message of Gurbani is, and that's what we need to promote more and more. We are becoming so reactive. Sometimes advocacy, what we do in this country, whether for women, whether for downtrodden, whether for an environment, whether it is hurting us. We need to change our mental set or mental paradigm a little bit. What we are doing is not working. We all protested when Bush went to Iraq. Majority of us protested, but he did it anyway. So we need to think about it, that what we are doing, is it really working? And what Guru said, even he was tortured, but he make people awaken their inner consciousness. And that's what we need to do. We don't need to become reactive. And that's what I do in my daily practice. It's hard when somebody's throwing all the insult at you, how you stay calm. And that's the message we need to get from these spiritual gurus. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's thank Dr. Kumar and Dr. Bains again for being here, and thank you for promising to come in the future. And our homework is to go to a Sikh temple. And you can go to the one here in Crestview, you can go to the one in Bay Point. We'll get the address for that one, but there's also one in El Sobrante. And it's the one with the golden domes that you see when you're driving on Highway 80. And they have Longar, and that's the biggest one in the region besides San Jose. Men will put a piece, there will be a little piece of cloth that you can put over your hair as you go in. And it's nice padded. Thank you so much. Thank you. And as a progressive Christian group, we heard many things that were very similar to the way we read our own scriptures, including protection of farmers, protection of family lands is a big theme in the Bible, and even the protection of the poor. And that's a big part of our calling as a Matthew 25 congregation, and working to end racism and towards the unity of all people is what our UCC, Join the Movement UCC.org is all about. So Judy, help us move into our next